Finally, the moment has come when Garou stops being the hunted and becomes the true predator. The hero hunter storms into the monster's lair and faces the Ripper like it's nothing. Get ready, because today's episode shows exactly why Garou is destined to become the greatest monster in this world. Zombie Man goes in to have a conversation with the mad doctor, and the doctor never thought he was a guinea pig from the House of Evolution. He says Zombie Man was the only success among his immortality experiments, and that it had been 10 years since he destroyed the lab and disappeared, only to return as a hero. But the guy, with no patience for small talk, immediately climbed onto the table with an axe and asked why the House of Evolution disappeared, since he can rebuild it as many times as he wants while he's alive. The doctor says he witnessed someone who surpassed artificial evolution, someone who removed his limiter. Naturally, no matter how hard someone tries, there are limits to their growth. He states that excessive force is a burden and can cause failures. That's why God created every being with a certain limiter. Meanwhile, a fierce fight was raging between Garou and the Ripper, or perhaps female Ripper. In a moment of distraction, Garou takes a blow from the giant cicada and is thrown far away, causing Garou to be electrocuted by the wires. Even so, Garou went on the attack like Killua, fearing no one. Returning to the doctor's talk, he says the bald guy was different from the others, surpassing his limits and removing the limiter. Zombie Man asks if there's a price for that, and Genus says he paid the price. The price to pay was becoming a completely bald egghead, in addition to suffering from loneliness, with a power capable of going head-to-head with Goku. Hearing all this, Zombie Man says the doctor's only failure was his head, and that he has already seen monsters ignore their limits. But the doctor, in shock about the egghead, says he is far beyond that. He explains that the triggers to become a monster vary: obsession, an inferiority complex, or some frustration, like being impotent or something similar. Others are created with scientific methods, and some even mutate with environmental pollution, among other factors. But it's not the same as removing the aforementioned limiter. Heroes were born with the potential to become strong and honed it with effort or talent. But the egghead was different. Born common, lived common, had no talent, was a destitute guy, but with effort, he surpassed his own limits and removed his limiter. Just thinking about it, the doctor laughs at the absurdity of his ambitions. He says Zombie Man might know him since he is also a hero. Returning to Garou, he says he can win since they are nothing compared to Silver Fang. The giant bug didn't believe a human could go that far, since it was 2 against 1 and he lasted this long. The Ripper says she was going to play with him but decided against it and will finish him quickly, and the bug says the fight is about to begin now. Garou spits out a tooth, saying he has already learned all their movements. Then out of nowhere, a slimy creature appears with the useless kid Garou saved. The cockroach asks what the slimy creature was doing there, and he says he has a personal beef with Garou. Garou ends up getting distracted and takes a cut from the Ripper from behind and then takes a punch to the stomach, spitting up his breakfast. After that, he started being sliced up by the Ripper, who was stopped by the giant cicada, who says they had orders not to kill him, but the long-haired guy says it's too late now. Garou is already deceased. With a look of pleasure, he calls everyone to leave. Meanwhile, at Saitama's house, Genos was watching King beat a game and said he didn't understand anything and still needed to level up more. The elderly heroes were worried about the bald guy who hadn't shown up yet, and Genos says that as long as he doesn't destroy the Monster Association, he won't return. The fake hero says he is strong, but is worried anyway. That's when the bald guy shows up, and everyone starts questioning him. He arrives all dirty, saying he got into some trouble. Everyone then thought he had found Garou. The bald guy subtly suggests that the place is too crowded for everyone to leave his house. What had happened to him was that he had lost his wallet with 6,000 yen inside, and everyone thinking he had found Garou, which he actually had. And when it seems like the bald guy remembered something important, he says he forgot the cabbage he bought at the restaurant. Genos offers to retrieve it, but the old man reminds him that he is all injured. Then, out of nowhere, the beauty appears, and Genos asks what she wants this time, but she was furious with the bald guy. Still, she had the kindness to bring the cabbage. The bald guy thanks her for the cabbage, but she forces him to apologize for letting her pay the restaurant bill, and without any pressure, he apologizes, sweating cold. She also complains that he left in the middle of the conversation, and he didn't even remember they were talking about something. With all this talk, Genos already thought that Fubuki also wanted to be the bald guy's disciple, and that it would be a problem for the bald guy to have more work. Suddenly, he notices a supposed enemy approaching. He wasn't in a condition to fight. The old men were injured. The blizzard, according to him, wouldn't stand a chance. The bald guy was traumatized because of the wallet, so the only option for him would be the charlatan. So he does everything to push King to fight, but luckily, it apparently wasn't an enemy. The unidentified astronaut says Genos seems to have been damaged and that he shouldn't strain himself, and the person inside the suit was Dr. Kusano. He says he received a distress call and wanted to see Genos personally. He asks what happened to the enemy that injured Genos, and Genos says the bald guy finished him off as usual. The big-nosed guy says he always wanted to meet the bald guy, and before he could finish talking, the bald guy tells him to take off his shoes. The old man starts a long speech to introduce himself, and Saitama quickly cuts him off and asks who he is. Not satisfied, the old man starts talking about his relationship with Genos, and the bald guy already kicks Genos out, saying the old man came to pick him up. Even Genos asks him to summarize it in less less than 20 characters. That's when the old man shows the gift he brought for Saitama, fancy meat. The old men already start hinting that they want to eat some meat, and the bald guy changes completely, telling him to visit his house more often. That's when the Blizzard sees how easy it is to buy the bald guy. The bald guy wanted to use the meat in a hot pot, and the hot girl butts in, saying it's a waste, and asks if they have red wine, as if it were a restaurant. That's when the bald guy realizes everyone wanted to stay for dinner and tells everyone to clear out. At the Monster Association, the Ripper reports that Garou failed the test and that they killed him in the heat of the moment. Kyoto asks them to tell the truth, and the giant cicada says Garou was just a mediocre guy and could betray the monsters at any moment. The strange creature notices that both are very injured, and the long-haired guy says he was stronger than expected and that he understood why Gyoro sent them both on the mission. Meanwhile, the useless kid was in shock. Who wouldn't be in front of a creature like that, right? The long-haired guy says he brought the snot-nosed kid because he had seen them and plans to torture him slowly to vent his anger. Gyoro tells them to stop playing around because the heroes will find the hideout in less than a day and will be formidable enemies. The monsters were gathered, preparing to fight. There was even a rhinoceros saying he would finish off the humans easily, besides a hen laying an egg, saying it could become the king of monsters. The beauty was training her slaves to kill people. There was even one intimidating the monsters themselves, and another who became a monster just by stroking his hair. The devotees of this cat were eager to beat up Puri Puri, and the drugged cat told them to do whatever they wanted. The monsters thought that, besides Lightspeed Flash, all the others were small fry. There are people with supernatural powers and robots fighting the heroes, but for them, no machine is capable of matching a ninja's speed. The guys were exchanging punches, and you can see the finally improved animation in this episode. After the collision, each went their separate way, and the guy started climbing the water like Naruto, and said he won't even need to activate his powers to kill the humans. The Ripper was taking the snot-nosed kid to the cell, and runs into G5, who had Metal Knight's head, saying it's a little thing he picked up out of self-interest. Meanwhile, the kid was wetting himself there because he knew Metal Knight. The big-headed kid is thrown into the cell, where there was another strange kid who immediately asks if he has any food. The snot-nosed kid manages to find an expired candy from the previous year, and gives it to him, who barely puts it in his mouth and asks if there's more. And since he doesn't have any, the strange kid calls him useless. Not that he isn't, but he didn't need to say it like that. He thinks he's super important, and says the monsters are stupid for capturing him, since his father is important in the Hero Association, and it won't take long for them to be rescued. That's when he starts using the other kid, promising that the heroes will save him if he obeys him. Suddenly, the walking diarrhea appears, saying they will never go home, and that everyone who comes to save them will die. The big-lipped kid tries to instill fear by saying that only Metal Bat would be able to defeat all of them. Little did he know that Metal Bat was already deceased. The slimy creature says that even S-class heroes don't stand a chance, since the strongest monsters are like God's works of art. Right after, like a suspense movie, only Garou's finger is shown moving, and the episode ends. Garou finally wakes up, wondering why the hell he was sleeping, and then remembers, oh right, he got his ass kicked by some monster. He immediately worries about what happened to that weird kid. He goes to stop the bleeding, but realizes it already stopped by itself. Even his clothes had fused with the wounds, so he just decides to start farming aura out of nowhere. Meanwhile, the lollipop nerd was close to finding the monster's hideout when Sekingar shows up asking if they were near it, because the green-haired loli was rushing them to move faster. The nerd asks if the S-class heroes are all gathered, but Tank Top Master and Metal Bat were already broken, Drive Knight was missing, Watchdog Man and Metal Knight refused to join. Zombie Man was on a train, but they couldn't contact Silver Fang, Genos, or King. The nerd says he researched Genos and found out he lives in Ghost City right, where the monster's hideout is, and even his hometown had vanished from the map. The Almost Cyborg says there are a lot of heroes with little secrets, and he doesn't get why he's bringing this up now. The nerd explains they know too little about the enemies, their strength, their numbers, and if there's a traitor among them, their plans and routes could go straight to hell. He thinks Genos is a rookie who hasn't shown enough to be fully trusted, like a USB port that hasn't been tested yet. Sekingar tells him to ask Genos directly if he's that suspicious, but the nerd refuses, saying they shouldn't share classified info with him, and even removes him from the operation. On top of that, he also suspects Silver Fang since he let Garou escape because of emotional attachment. It's been confirmed Garou joined the monster gang, so he decides to remove Silver Fang from the operation too. Sekingar asks if they need King, and the nerd says he's a key piece. Sekingar goes to report to the old man, saying he'll gather the Class A and C heroes to support the S-Class. They don't have combat skills, but they'll do. The old man tells him not to treat them like disposable cups. Sekingar says he doesn't expect everyone who enters that place to come out alive, and that's the risk they accepted when they chose to be pro-heroes. The old man with the big nose says that if they lose more heroes, they'll run out of people, and Sekingar reminds him he was the one in charge of the emergency team during the Earth Doomsday Prophecy, so he wants them ready for the worst-case scenario. Sekingar believes the Monster Association might actually be what the prophecy was warning them about, and if they let it go out of control, it'll destroy humanity, but if they overcome it, they'll no longer live in fear of that prophecy. Finally, he says not to talk behind Silver Fang and the other's backs. Meanwhile, at the bald guy's apartment, they turned his house into a full-on restaurant, waiting for the meat he won to be cooked. When it was finally ready, nobody had the slightest bit of manners to wait and serve themselves properly. Fubuki goes to grab a piece, but Genos blocks her hand from touching his master's meat. She asks if he's really satisfied being the bald guy's assistant. At the same time, the old man says they should share the food, even though he's the one hogging everything. The bald guy asks why they act so normal, eating someone else's food, and tells them all to leave. Blizzard thinks she has authority and tells them to go too, but the bald guy includes her in that order. To her, Silverfang is fine, but the other old guy, Bomb, not so much. She takes the chance to invite them to join the Blizzard group. The cyborg threatens to annihilate her, and the bald guy tells him not to break anything. Kuseno tells Genos to calm down, then suddenly acts kinda sus, saying he's happy to see a new side of him that made him feel oddly happy. Genos completely ignores it and says that woman isn't his friend. The old man looks shocked. Genos had never disagreed with him before. Blizzard starts complimenting the old man's weapon-making skills and once again tries to recruit him to her group. Genos even threatens to incinerate her for that. The other old man asks what the bald guy thinks about training disciples, and he just says it's nothing special. Silverfang starts wondering where he went wrong since his dojo always valued strength above all, but Genos cuts him off, telling him not to start a long story, and right after that, he tells Bomb to stop hiding the bald guy's cabbage. Even when Saitama asks Kuseno to bring more meat, Genos says not to make such rude requests. The bald guy tells everyone to leave once they're done eating, and only after a while does he notice King lying unconscious because he fainted trying to grab food. Meanwhile, Garou is heading straight to the monster's hideout, walking in that same weird way as before. Gyoro immediately notices him entering, wondering if he's a monster or a hero. He decides to check everything carefully since the big battle's approaching, and orders the monsters to go greet him. The next day, the bald guy wakes up King, who's been unconscious all this time. King looks confused and asks what he's doing there, and Saitama tells him he passed out while fighting for meat. King asks where everyone else is, and Saitama says he kicked them all out, plus Genos is getting repaired. Saitama then takes advantage of the moment and tells King to take out the trash since it's garbage day. King walks out still covered in food stains, admiring the peaceful morning, and makes this deep analogy about how the monsters are probably gathering right beneath Ghost City, and just thinking about it gives him chills. Little does he know, they actually are. When King gets near his house, he spots two guys waiting in front, who rush toward him saying they've been looking for him everywhere and couldn't contact him. One of them asks where he was yesterday, and King says he was in City Z. They see the stains on his clothes and think it's monster fluids, assuming he was in a huge battle, when in reality he just passed out over food. Even though he looks completely done for, they still ask him to come to HQ with them. Meanwhile, the big-lipped old man is freaking out because he sent some NPCs to rescue his son from the monster's hideout, and they haven't come back yet. He thinks if the heroes go there, they'll end up the same way. Sekingar suggests he take a sedative and get some sleep, but the guy says he's got a bad feeling that at this rate, they'll all be crushed. Sekingar takes charge and says they'll rescue his son. The old man has no faith left, saying even Metalbat, an S-class hero, was defeated, so there's no reason to believe in them anymore. He kneels down, offering all his money if they can just save his son. Then suddenly, a dude walks in saying there's no need for that, only the weak are swayed by money. Another guy, a dark-skinned one, says what's really needed on the battlefield is courage to face evil. The lowly says strength is what matters and that they should leave everything to her. The swordsman says the kid's rescue is top priority. The pale dude says he's been wanting to crush an organization like that for a while. The flamboyant guy says he'll give everything he's got to bring the kid and his precious captives back. The nerd cuts in, saying he's already located their hideout. With total confidence, they all say they'll defeat the monsters. The lowly tells the old man to get some rest because by the time he wakes up, everything will be over. She says they'll gather to come up with a strategy, and the old man decides to lie down. The nerd says he'll give each of them a map of Ghost City with a plan to split up and enter simultaneously. The nerd gives each one a tracker to monitor their positions. Everyone's top priority is to protect the big-lipped kid. Sekingar says he's recruited every capable fighter available for backup. Tatsumaki suspects he even called her little sister, and he actually did. She tells him not to put her sister in danger and warns she won't forgive him if he does, since she alone is enough. Sweating bullets, Sekingar says he'll cancel that. Back in the monster's hideout, the long-haired psycho wakes up the weird kid in total panic, saying he's come to take him. The big-lipped kid wonders why that kid is the only one chosen, and the psycho replies it's because he's the only one he wants to play with. The kid starts yelling for the heroes, but it's no use. To make things worse, the Ripper mocks him, saying the heroes only care about rescuing the rich kid, and that he's already done for. Meanwhile, the monsters are searching for Garou, who's already caused massive destruction. They even start wondering if he's just another temperamental monster like the Ripper. Meanwhile, the kid is screaming for help as the psycho tortures him, saying the only purpose of his life is to kill, and now he's obsessed with the weird kid. When he says he's going to cut the kid's tongue out, Garou suddenly appears out of nowhere, shattering the Ripper's sword and punching his head clean off. For the third time, Garou ends up saving that kid's life.